Okay, good evening everyone. Welcome to Is University More Than Education? As some of you may know, this is an event being put on by Power to Change. Power to Change is a Christian club here on campus. We as a club believe that university is a really important time to ask the big questions. And we're really excited as a club to come alongside students and encourage them and journey with them as they discover God and meaning for their lives.
Throughout Orientation Week, we at Power to Change wanted to give students a chance to be known and share their story with their fellow Griffins to promote community on campus. Some of you might have been asked our question, what's your story? And maybe your story is one of the many that we posted on our Instagram account, Griffin Stories. Well, tonight we are very excited to invite 3 of our own professors here to share some more of their own stories and their own university experiences. In just a moment, we will introduce the professors and hear more of their stories, and after, they will have a chance to answer some of our questions from the audience. At the end of the evening, we hope you'll stick around. Right after, we'll be showing a short video called Alpha.
Without any more delay, let's welcome our professors. Quick introduction in case you haven't had a class with some of them. First up we have Dr. John Dawson. Dr. Dawson is a professor at the Department of Molecular and Cellular Biology. He did a double major in biology and chemistry at Laurier, and then went on to do his PhD in biochemistry at the University of Alberta in Edmonton, before doing a postdoctoral fellowship in biochemistry at Stanford. In addition to his research about muscle proteins, he's won many teaching awards and is the founding director of the College of Biological Science Office of Education, Scholarship, and Practice. John has been going to Calvary Baptist Church for 13 years, where he's been past chair of the Elders Board. He has 2 children, Emma and Ezra, and has been married to Amanda for 19 years.
Next, I'd like to introduce Bonnie Millard. Dr. Millard works at the Ontario Veterinarian College and is a member of the Centre of Genetic Improvement for Livestock at the University of Guelph. Her research focuses on genetic regulation of immune response and disease resistance. At the University of Guelph, Dr. Millard manages an immunology lab. This year, of 2017, she won the Governor General's Award for Innovation. This is the first time it has been awarded to the University of Guelph, and also the first time it has been awarded in the agri-food sector. This has also been a big year for Bonnie Millard, as she also won the University of Guelph Innovation Award that's given out annually.
And finally, we have Dr. William Tam. Dr. Tam was born in Hong Kong and has received his education at 4 different universities. His undergraduate studies were at the University of Hong Kong, graduate studies done at the University of Toronto, and postgraduate studies at Imperial College of the University of London and at Harvard University. He joined the University of Guelph as an assistant professor in 1998 and was promoted to a full professor in 2007. He has taught 7 different organic chemistry courses at both undergraduate and graduate levels. He's married to his wife Phyllis for 17 years and has a 15-year-old son named Matthew.
So to start off the evening, we'd love to hear from our professors more about their time in university. Remember, there will be time to ask your questions at the end, but we will be posting a phone number at the top up there. Wonderful. So you can text your questions to this number at any point during the time of our questions here, and then they'll be handed up to us and we can ask them at the end. So first off, our first question, I guess for Dr. Tam, you have the microphone.
John is the youngest.
See how I did there? I gave you the microphone.
So we'll ask each question, anyone feel free to answer. What was your fondest memory or a funny story from your university experience?
Well, that was like 30 years ago. I don't really remember. Okay, well, I studied in 4 different universities, so my bachelor year, honestly, don't remember anything. I remember that I was busy, but why, I don't remember. So I have more memories when I was at University of Toronto and was doing my PhD there for 5 years. And then after that, 2 years postgraduate study at UK and then USA. So in those years, I guess the most memory I have is the opportunity to know a lot of different friends from different countries. I was counting the other day, I probably know about friends through those years, about 20 different countries that I know. So not knowing, but by knowing those friends, that I know people from different cultural background, how they think, many people from different religious background. So my fondest memory was like knowing friends from different culture, different country.
Yeah, so I'm a Guelph girl, and so I really love this campus. I'm very connected to it. Are there any Aggies here tonight? That's what I like to hear. So one of the funniest stories, and maybe you guys can reenact this one, was when they were, well, it won't be the Aggies that want to. They were trying to get back. There was always this sort of competition between like the Aggies, the vets, the engineers. You know, it was friendly. But yeah, you're laughing. It's not always so friendly. But one day outside the university center, the engineers had gone and found cow patties. And they had put the cow patties outside the UC, and they stuck a big sign in it, and it said, Aggie degree free. Take one. Well, it seems funny now, but I was sort of insulted at the time. Right? Being an Aggie. But the other thing I'd like to say is friends are really key. The friends you make in university, these are going to be your colleagues. These are going to probably be the friends you really have for your life. So enjoy that. Just the time of, it seems like you're busy and you are, but you're only going to get busier. So this is a time to really enjoy, to study. It's your own time. And yeah, it's really special for me to think back on that time.
Yeah, I think for me, fondest memories in university, aside from all the studying, because that was the number one thing we did, was the relationships with the people. And specifically to my undergrad, I was at Laurier. It's a smaller university. My classes were really small, so we got to know each other. As I said, a double major. I was the graduating class in chemistry that year. There's only one. So I got to know all my professors really well. But the friends that you make, really, they are amazing. Because it's at this stage you're really starting to find the people who have the same interests as you. And so it's really fun times. I was really fortunate when I was in my 4th year. Laurier won the Vanier Cup that year. So it was lots of fun. So in terms of a fond memory, lots of fun. And I ended up living with a roommate for 3 years. So like first year, you're in res and you find somebody, and I ended up living with Robbie for 3 years after that. And really good friend. And we tolerated each other, and we really had a good time. We learned a lot from each other, and I have very vivid memories. I wouldn't maybe say it's a fond memory, but I do remember the very last day. And where I'm living on State Street, and we have a little house. It's the very last day. University's done. I've done all my exams. I had an extra day to pack. And I packed up, and my dad pulled up in the truck, and we're loading up the truck, and I'm done. The last box was in the truck. And I'm facing, and I turn back to the house, and there's Robbie. And he's just crying, because it's over, So those are the kind of memories you always keep. Those are the friends you'll always have. That's what I think about it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Our second.
I cry, you cry.
So you've already sort of touched on this question a little bit, but how did your time in university shape who you are today?
Shall I go? Okay. You really start in university, you really start to figure out who you are, and you really start to figure out what your core values are. And so for you, if you're thinking about Christianity or you're a Christian, I think those core values will be what you live by. I wasn't quite there, but I was a churchgoer. But one of the core values that I had just coming out of my own family was working really hard. So my undergraduate was the time where I really optimized studying. So, you know, fondest memory was seriously studying all the time. But that work ethic really formed an integral part of who I am and part of how I got to be here. And so those universities, I'd say that work ethic, sticking to it and figuring out how was the best way to study and so on, those are the kind of things that really stuck with me and have always been there and always will be.
So again, for Guelph, I really connected with Guelph because it's kind of a different sort of campus. There is the ag school and the vet school here, and so this campus is very grounded. It's connected to the land, it's connected to crops and horticulture and to animals, and so, you know, there was a lot of projects here that I felt I could really appreciate and dig my teeth into. I mean, we've just finished with this president. I mean, it goes on and on, but the Better Planet Project. So, you know, it's a place where you build community. It's a place where you learn to be part of a community, and you can take those ideas about building a better community, building a better planet, out with you into the world. So I think I'm still here, so I'm still doing it, but that's a really fond memory. And I came here because I wanted to be a veterinarian, and I know a lot of people come to this campus because they want to be veterinarians. And so, you know, God just kind of wove that desire of my heart into, you know, my research program and where I am today. So I guess that's kind of my fondest memories here of just this unique place that it really is.
What was the question again?
The question was, how did your time in university shape who you are today?
Okay. Right. Okay, well, before I go to university, I used to be a person who easily follow what other people do. So in high school, I mean, whatever your friends do, you do. That's what I was before. But during the 10 years when I was studying at university, I become a person who think more, become a critical thinker. So no matter what new concept I have been taught or new information I've been given, I will analyze and judge before I follow. I was not a believer when I was at university. So I've heard many things, but then every time when I receive a new concept, I always think more and more and more before I decide whether this is right or wrong. So that during all the years at university, that's what I become. I become a deep thinker, and I only believe things that I have enough information, enough support. Otherwise, I don't believe those things. That was who I was when I was there. I'll try to pass it back.
You've been nominated for the next question.
So our next question is, what has changed in your life since university?
What?
What has changed in your life since
university?
you never left?
I know, we never left, nothing changed.
Since university. The problem is I first need to translate that from English to Chinese before I understand what they mean. So, let me think again. What has changed? John, can I ask?
Yeah, sure. Everything's changed because when I was at university, I think I was a very self-centered person. It was all about getting the best grades. It was all about being top in the class, about me, and where am I going to go, and how am I going to be successful, and am I going to? And I was a competitive person, so very much so. How am I going to beat that person? How am I going to be the best? Not the best way to go, I'd say. But I was successful. So how have things changed? Everything's changed. After university, I went and did a graduate degree. And I started to find at that level, gosh, I'm not the best. I've got some really awesome friends out here who are kind, and they are way smarter than I am, and yet I'm still accepted. And so it's not really about me being the best or being super awesome at and getting the best marks. It's about being a person and being loved. And then when I went on to Stanford, changed everything because those guys, I was totally honored to work with these group of people who are so amazingly brilliant. And I've said this before, on my very best days, when thinking totally clearly and saying the right things and just on, I was average. I was surrounded by the smartest people I know. And so I went from being very self-centered to realizing, I'm not going to be the best, and that's okay. And it changed my, from being centered on, I guess, standards that are outside of myself, because grades and so on, and to a different standard, the standards that's inside, the standard that Christ set for me. So I went from an external or worldly standard to one that's more internal, and it just, how's that changed me? It changed everything. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I guess for me, it's a little bit the same, because you go from the one who is being mentored to the person who is mentoring. So when I was a student, I really enjoyed the interaction with the professors. When I then went to do my graduate work, I found the profs just willing to pour so much of their knowledge into me to shape who I was. And so I guess I'm trying to now pass that forward. So yeah, it's changed in that it shapes who you are, and the roles change, and you become a certain kind of person. And so yeah, it's kind of like the opposite side now of the same coin. The person who was being mentored now has the opportunity to mentor others, which I really love to do. I mean, that's just, for me, becomes such a privilege. And although I came from a family that were believers, I didn't make my own commitment, my own serious commitment to Christ until I was in second or third year university. And that was radical. That was a radical change for me. And that's when I really got the idea for breeding animals for disease resistance, which is what I, this year, won those innovation awards for. So, it just kind of keeps growing and changing and evolving, but I think it's all been good evolution for sure.
I'm still thinking, what's the question about? So, when I was at university, so the question is, what has changed? So when I was at university, I was an atheist. So the way that I used to think is, life is about setting a goal, and then you achieve the goal, and then you move on. That's what I used to be. Okay, but then after that, so the way of thinking is completely different, but it's not because I changed from university, it's because I become a believer, it's different. But when I was at university, the way that I live my life is just, I do whatever I want to do. It's just I want to do things that can help me to be successful in my future. That's what I'm trying to do. But then after that, once I know that it's not the end, because I used to think as an atheist, I used to think, well, after you die, there's nothing. So if it is true, then you have a different way of how you live your life. Then after you know, there's something else. So the change, like I can share more about my story later on, but the major change is because I now know the truth. It doesn't end there. So because of that, then I live my life differently. But that's not because of graduating from university.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of it. Your answers to the previous question kind of got the ball rolling here, but you all mentioned how faith is an essential part of your life today. We're wondering if maybe you could elaborate a little bit on that. Maybe talk about how faith in university sort of affected your university experience, or lack of faith in university, how that affected your experience as well.
So as I mentioned before, I was not a believer when I was at university. So I would say when I was at university, I was a 90% atheist, 10% whatever. Well, I guess the 90% atheist is easy to understand. So 90% of the time, I will think God doesn't exist. Impossible, there's a God there. Okay, 90%. But 10% to whatever, it's like, well, if God exists, and if he's like what other people say, there's heaven or hell, I will be okay. Because I used to think I'm a nice person. I used to think, well, compared to most people around me, I am okay. So I used to think that way. So in my university years, then I think, well, it doesn't matter whether God exists or not, I am okay. What was the question again? I think I have some problem. I was not like that in class, was I? I was not. So you asked me.
Yeah, I think you covered it. The question was, how did a life with faith or a life without faith affect your university experience?
Oh, right. But during the 10 years when I was at university, I can tell you I was changing from 90%, 10%, gradually to 70%, 30%, and then 50% to 50%. That's not about, it's not because I hear many things about Christianity, it's not about that. It's just that the more education I receive, the more things that I know, I start have more serious thinking. That is impossible. That things happen randomly. When I see a picture, I cannot say, well, the picture was formed randomly. It must have a creator. They must have an intelligent designer who drew the picture. The same when I study science. The more I study, the more I'm amazed how all those physical law, all the chemistry law work together. So you just think about when you cut your finger, how come it doesn't bleed to death? That chemistry-wise, science-wise, is so complicated. Unless there's someone who designed us. Otherwise, it would not be like that. So on all those years, I became a 50-50. Okay? I'm still not a Christian. I'm still not 100% sure God exists, but it was more like 50-50 in 1997 when I finished my last year of university.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of another funny story about design. Because at university you start to ask lots of the deep questions, and you've got wonderful colleagues to bounce your answers off, and you're always kind of having these friendly, engaging conversations. So it's really a time to think, and it's a good time to think about where we come from, how we got here, where we're going. So it's a time to tackle some of those big questions. And I remember I was thinking about design and how does that all work? And somebody says, well, I think there must be a designer, because if not, it's like throwing all the letters of the alphabet up in the air and catching it, and you've got Webster's dictionary. So what's the chance of that? No, probably not. So, but also for me, like William, he kind of gradually shifted. For me, I would say I kind of had a radical encounter with God in second year. So God does things different with different people, and certainly that shifted my worldview, radically. And I find it interesting that it was after I became a believer that some of the ideas that have carried my entire career were given to me. And for me, I'm not that smart. There's always people you're gonna say, well, maybe I'm not the dumbest person in the room, but I definitely am not the smartest. When you get to university, that's how it is. There's lots of smart people here. And you have to write some pretty scary exams and stuff. And I can remember when I was studying for my PhD qualifying exam, which is probably the biggest exam you'll ever write in your life, and I'm going, no, you know what, I can't do it. It's just way too scary. There's no way I can know everything there is, everything I'm supposed to know. You know what, I can't. And I was really freaking out about it. And I decided I'm just going to open up my Bible because, God's always been faithful. He's got me through, but I'm feeling really stressed. And I don't usually advocate just sort of opening the Bible, looking at it, and hoping for the best. But I did it that day, and I opened it up, and because I said I can't do it. I can't do it. I was exhausted too from studying. You know, have you ever studied somebody, you just, no, yeah, I don't want another thought. I don't give a rip. I can't stand to even think one more thought. And I opened up the Bible, and right like it just jumped out at me, and it said, "He who is perfect in knowledge is with you." I went, what? That is too cool. I wanted to leave. And so I relaxed. And somehow I passed that exam, you know? So I've decided, you know, it's not, again, it's like John said, it's not all about me. You know, without God, we're really nothing. I rely heavily upon him. I've learned to do that throughout my career. He's never let me down yet.
What was the question again?
The question was, how did faith affect your life in university?
Right. Okay, cool. So in addition to the major, I actually had the opportunity to do a minor. I had to take some extra courses to squeeze it all in, a pretty thick program. But I got a minor in religion and culture at Laurier. Actually, you may not know this, WLU, Laurier, Wilfrid Laurier University. It used to be called Waterloo Lutheran University. They had a seminary there. So I had a chance to study with some pretty cool people. One guy studied the Dead Sea Scrolls, which was really cool. This really old guy is like, well, I studied the Dead Sea Scrolls. That's how old I am, too. Anyway, but it's not that cool a story because I think my radical encounter with God happened about grade 12. And then I actually got quite hurt by some friends who called themselves Christians, because there's that element of, well, no, you're not a real Christian if you don't do this, that, and the other. And I was raised in a different church in a small town, okay? So they were quite hurtful. And so when I went to university, it was, okay, I'm going to study up on this so I can shoot them down. Right? Because they're going on, and honestly, you've heard, you know, Bible thumping and all that kind of stuff. That's how I would have characterized them at the time. So my motivation for studying religion and culture was to show them, to rub their faces in it. That's the kind of jerk I was. Still a little bit am, but thank God, right? It can change your heart. So, and that's kind of what happened over time. I forgot about that and started getting into it, and it was like really cool. I think what you're hearing is everybody's journey is going to be unique. You can have radical encounters, some people have a slow burn, and you know, everybody's got a different cycle. I had that very exciting time in grade 12. I went and lived in Europe for a year. I was totally alone, so all I had was Jesus and me, and that was it. So very faithful time, and then came home and was hurt, so I fell away. And it wasn't until I got back into grad school and was in Edmonton and started really feeling blue. I was like, what's going on? This is not right. Like, you know, what's going on? And I realized I'm just not connecting with the wellspring. Not connecting anymore. So I decided I'm going to go back to church, and then everything changed. I met my wife, you know, at church. I went to visit, a very short story, I went to visit like one of the other grad students. She's sitting right here so I can embarrass her in front of everybody. So mad to everybody. Anyway, no, one of the other grad students, their husband was a youth pastor. And so she said, hey, why don't you come out to my church? So I said, I did. And that was the start of that. So, how have things changed since? A lot. But yeah, so in university, that was my motivation, and that's how I think you'll find everybody goes through times that it's very exciting, and then times when it's quiet, and you're going to need to walk through those times and decide for yourself who you're going to go to, and that's a difficult decision some are going to make.
Thank you so much. Fast forwarding a little bit, how is your faith central to the way you live now?
Oh, it's everything, right? So I think we're going to see I hope you stick around for the alpha video. I've been able to see the first few minutes of it. And it's a very compelling little bit, right? They go out in the street and they ask people, okay, you've got a question, what do you do? And a lot of people say, well, if I got a question, what do I pull up my cell phone and I go, hey Siri, what is what? And, whoops. And they find their answers on Google, or they ask their friends, or their parents, or people, or the dictionary. And I think the difference is, how is faith essential to my life is when the difficult decisions come, when the challenges come, when the struggles come, I don't go to Google. I don't go to a person. I go to my God first. And I look it up in the Bible. I know it sounds trite, but there's so much wisdom in there. That book contains wisdom of thousands of years. And there's words in there that, as you read through it, speak to you. I love your story, because sometimes that happens. You pop it open, boom, it's there. And sometimes you read the same story over and over again. You're like, I don't want to read Deuteronomy again. Right? But it depends on the context that you're in. It depends on the situation you're in, and there's something to it. The Spirit will speak to you. You've read it 1,000 times, and all of a sudden it's like, that, you're talking to me now. So I don't go to Google first. I go somewhere else first. And that's how it's different.
Yeah, I'd have to just reiterate the same, right? Because I think, my faith is everything to me, and the longer I walk with God, the deeper the relationship. Because it's just like anybody else. When you first get to know them, it's superficial, but the more time you spend with God, the more you learn about His character through the Word of God, it just becomes deeper and deeper ingrained in who you are. And those principles are solid. Like I've now learned that through experience. It's one thing to say you have faith, but until you have to exercise it, it's just a word. But when you get to my age and you've been through lots of different events in your life, divorce, cancer, lots of things, and it's, will this anchor hold? And yeah, I can tell you, yeah, the anchor holds. So it's very, very real to me. I think the Bible does say the rain falls on the good and the bad. So it doesn't matter if you're a Christian or you're a non-Christian or you're a Buddhist or whoever you are, good things are going to happen and bad things are going to happen. The difference is how are you going to handle them, right? And so for me, the Word of God is like a compass. It shows me, how to get through the good times and how to get through the bad times. So I guess in a nutshell, it's central to my life. Central to my life, not only at home, but in everything I do. Some people say, how can you be a scientist and be a Christian? Well, I can tell you, I've been on faculty 25 years. I've won a lot of awards. It works very well. Thank you very much.
I guess I don't remember the question anymore, but that's okay. Because I'm going to, because I would like to share a bit about how I become a Christian more than what I want to answer. Because unlike Professor Malay and Professor Dawson, they have been Christian for a long time. I'm quite young, they're Christian. I'm only 10 years old. I'm much younger than what I look. So I'm only 10 years old. So remember I told you before, even when I finished university, I was only a 50% atheist, 50% whatever. Remember that? So I want to complete my story, because I know that I recognize a few of you here who are in my class that you're not Christian. So I want to share with you how come as a scientist, how come I was an atheist before when I was your age? How come I become a Christian now? So I really want to share that story. It's not going to take up too long. Give me a few minutes. So I came to Guelph in 1998, okay, so when I worked in the Department of Chemistry. And that is the time there's only 3 people in the department who can speak Cantonese. I don't know how many of you understand the feeling when you come to a country that do not speak your language. You feel lonely. No matter how much my English improved, all of you know how poor my English is. So no matter how much my English improved over the years, it's always nice to have someone who speaks the same language as you. So at that time, there's only 3 people in my department who can speak Cantonese. But one of them was a master student who was in the Asian Christian Fellowship group. So we became friends. And then And then he would share with me, during our time together about Christ. I remember those years, I used to debate with him a lot. Almost every time we get together, I would tell him, no, you're not. I would tell him my opinion, I tell you how come God doesn't exist. I would debate with him all the time. That goes for at least 4 or 5 years, since 1998. And he was a student of our professor. So whenever I cannot win an argument, I would say, I am from Harvard, you are not. That is what I used to say, okay? That's what I used to say. So in those years, I would say, no, I don't believe what you tell me, okay? Until I was married and I have a son. My son is 1 month older than his daughter. So we become good friends. So that girl became my son's little girlfriend. So they always pray together. So they invite us to go to church. Then I went to church. The purpose of going to church is not going to listen to the preaching. It's just that I want my son to have a friend, that's all. Okay, so but during those times when I hear what I heard in the preaching, I start having many questions in my mind. I remember one day when my wife was away for a conference. I was holding Matthew, my son, in my hand. And then I was grading organic chemistry 1 exam. So I remember I was doing that, and then when I was taking a rest, I was thinking, well, I can prepare a lot of things for my son, just like I help my student. I can help my son to be a medical doctor. I can help my son to be a dentist. I can help him to go to Harvard, like me. But then what is it good? He's going to die one day, and I'm going to die one day too. If after we die, it's actually nothing, then it's fine. Then I will live my life just like what I used to be. I just prepare his life for this life, and if there's nothing after that, then it's fine. But then what if there's something after life, like what my friend told me? That is the time I start seeking. I start praying and ask, I don't know who you are. I don't even know whether you exist, God. But please tell me. I really want to know. Unless I know the answer, how can I tell my son? I love my son so much. I want to tell him the truth. I don't know the truth myself. Please reveal yourself to me. To be honest to you, during that time, I'm hoping that I will not have an answer. Because I was hoping that there's no God in my life. Then I can be my own God. I can decide whatever I want to do. That's what I used to be. But I can tell you, it's a long story. I'm not going to tell you everything. But then, at that time, I have a Bible at home. You will be surprised. I was not a Christian. I have a Bible at home. It's just that someone gave the Bible to my brother-in-law who studied at Waterloo. I don't even live with my brother-in-law. But when we pack up his stuff, I have a Bible at home. So every time when I pass by the Bible, it's like you keep asking me the truth. It's already there. I start reading. I can tell you the first. I was in church many times, but I never really read the Bible until 2005 or 6. I start reading. God can reveal Himself to you through His Word. I can never think about that. When people in the past, when people tell me the Bible is not only written by human, it's the Word from God. I never believed that for 35 years in my life until I actually read it. So once I started reading it, I remember the time when I took my son for playing soccer. How many of you in my class, you saw the video that my son playing soccer, remember that? So in those times, I had lots of time reading. Okay, so I would read the Bible. I remember those times when I read. Many times when I read, I cry. I just feel, first time in my life, how can there's a God out there love me so much? I used to think myself as a nice person. I used to think I deserve to go to heaven because I'm a nice guy. But once you learn more about who God is and who I am, I know how bad I am as a person. In all my life, I ignore the one who loved me. I ignore the one who created me. And the first time I encounter God. And once you know the love of Jesus, your life will change. And His Word will change you forever. So, only 10 years ago, I accepted Christ. So for those people who are here who are Christian, don't be afraid to share, even with your professor, even he's from Harvard. Doesn't mean that you know more than you. Right? We have the truth. We have the truth. Okay?
Yeah, thank you all so much for sharing. You just not up there?
No, we're good.
No, we're good? All right. Okay, so now we're going to open it up to a question and answer period. So some of you have texted in some questions already. Mandy's writing down some more. So we have a sheet of a couple of questions for all of you. First one is, what's the hardest part about being a professor?
sort of, because it's not like you wake up one day and you become a professor. This is like, it builds inch by inch, and it's premise upon premise. I do remember the transition though, from a postdoc to a professor. So I had a PhD, and then I did my postdoc, and I was essentially running my advisor's lab. And so I thought, okay, when they appointed me to professor, okay, this should be okay. Holy crow, like the level of responsibility, just the amount, the volume, the responsibility. It took a while to really make that adjustment. So yeah, it was a big adjustment. And a few years ago, one of my students became a professor as well. He's a professor at Guelph, Dr. Byron Bridle. And so when, he had been a prof for about 8 months, and I saw him in the hall, and I thought, I better ask him how he's doing, because I know that transition is a tricky one. And he had been a postdoc at McMaster for 4 years, so he had a lot of experience. He ran he is very successful. And so I said to him, hey Byron, how are you doing? And he kind of looked at me with big eyes, and he went, oh my goodness, he said, I never knew you guys did so much. So he was making the transition, but now you can see, he's good. He's kind of found his legs, and he's found his rhythm. So I don't know, for me that was that big transition, and that was the hardest part. And I don't find it too bad now.
That's a tough question, but that's a good question. And I agree that you keep going. So I love the job because it's not a job, it's just my life, and it's what I am, it's what I do. So it's not 9 to 5, definitely. It's 24/7, it's what you think about, it's what you talk about. And I think that there's a very common toughness or tough thing, and it's common to everybody, and you will all experience this. And it's what's the best part and the worst part, and that's just people. There are going to be amazing people to work with, and some of my colleagues are outstanding. Love working with them. People of integrity. They are helpful, and then there's not. Right, and so you have to figure out how you're going to work with those who are not so helpful, and maybe don't have the same kind of integrity. So, but I don't think that's just specific to being a professor. That's just specific to being a person. So it's always the best and the worst is going to be the people. And I just have to say I have some really awesome people to work with, so enjoy that. What's the toughest part of being a professor?
Oh, toughest part of being a professor?
The grading, yeah?
No. That's relatively simple. No, that's relatively simple too. The toughest part is to understand why people don't understand something. So I guess, you get it wrong. What I'm trying to say is, throughout the years, students change. Okay, so the student that I taught 10 years ago different than the student now. So the most difficult part for me is to understand why people do things this way than the way that I used to be a student before. So the toughest part for me is to understand how people learn now than before. I used to have people line up in my office, the big line in my office, but last 5 years, people just go to Google, right? So they don't come to my office anymore. So it's just a different way how to think about how to teach you. Because the way that you learn is different than the way that I used to learn.
Okay, now when I look at my classroom, I just see Mac computers. I just see the Big Apple all the way along, right? So you're standing here and you go at the front, you see all the nice apples. But occasionally, if you go in from the back end, you go, oh wow, they're not all looking at immunology. Some of them are shopping. So it changes. They couldn't shop in my class before.
All right, so just for the sake of time, we're just going to ask that one professor answers each question. If you're interested, wrestle for the microphone. So this is kind of a multi-part question. So as a Christian Scientist, Have you experienced ridicule from the scientific community? How did you overcome it? And what advice would you have for students in science who are trying to live out their faith?
Wow, that's a hot button topic. So it's very simple. I don't talk about it. No, okay. So, no, I think there's so much, even now, you look at the United States, look at other countries, it's so polarizing. And so Christians are often put over in one group, scientists on another. And the simple fact of the matter is those are very radical positions to be in. And if biology has taught us anything, it's that diversity is the way to be successful. And that being extreme is dangerous. And so the way I approach those conversations is usually just to say that my salvation doesn't depend on whether evolution exists or not, right? My salvation depends on whether Christ lived, died, and was risen again. And that basically ends that conversation. Because people try and draw you into those, well, is evolution, is that real? Is that dinosaurs and stuff? I said, listen, that's not the question. The question is whether Christ lived, died, and rose again for you. Let's talk about that. And so, that's a little bit maybe in your face, but that's how I approach those. And so, I think I got enough respect in the department for just being a good worker and contributing that, honestly, I'll be honest, people don't ask. They really don't. If you're just doing a good job, they're happy enough with that. Let's be honest, I mean, they're so busy doing everything else. We don't have time to talk about those issues anymore. No one meets for coffee anymore. We're stuck in our offices. That's how busy we are. It's kind of sad. So, I have to make an effort to go out and meet with other men who are Christians, because that kind of fellowship that doesn't happen anymore amongst colleagues. We're just so busy doing other stuff.
We have a question that's addressed specifically to Dr. Millard. How do you keep faith through the difficult times in life? And especially if you're feeling hopeless or feel like you can't find answers?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, I think your faith grows, right? It's as you're tested or you have to go through difficulty, you can try to solve the problem on your own. I've tried that. It doesn't really work. I found I didn't get very far. Actually, things didn't turn around. I just thought I could handle it and figure it out on my own. And some problems, are darn scary. Like when you have cancer, that's darn scary. I'm going, I don't have any answers. Am I gonna? Yeah, the physicians don't have any answers. So, you have to figure out, are you prepared to die? Are you ready to die? This was stage 4 breast cancer. What are you going to do about that? So now you've got to, decide where you're really going to place your trust. And I placed my trust in God. And my mom always had a saying. She said, "You do your best, God will do the rest." So I did my best and I prayed, and it's very miraculous actually, because I'm completely cancer-free today. And that's a whole other story if somebody wants to hear about that whole journey, because that was pretty awesome. But I was ready to, if God said that's it for you, then I had to be satisfied with that and ready for that. But as it turns out, God says, no, I still have some more things for you to do. So here I am.
Thank you for that. What is the main reason why you believe in Jesus? Was there a key factor on the point that tipped the scale?
The main reason, I guess he revealed to me through the Word. For people who never read the Bible, just like me before, I've 35 years never read the Bible. So until you get to that stage to read God's word, it will reveal to you itself. What else can I say?
God's word, that's important.
There we go. Sounds good. Okay, I think that's all the questions we're going to have time for. We have a few more sheets of questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to everybody's. We do want to be conscious of time, so we're gonna cut it off there. But there will be a chance to speak with the professors during the break after the event. So before we move on, could you all join me in thanking our professors for